Welcome to CES and to the Stagwell Content Studio. My name is Grady Miller. I am the Chief Marketing Officer of NRG. And we are joined today by Priscilla Valls, the VP of Agency Advertiser and Industry Development at SXM or SiriusXM. It's so great to meet you. So exciting to be here with you today.
Thank you for having me and for the invitation. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Well, I've been so excited to chat with you, but I would love to hear a little bit more about your role at SXM and what that looks like today.
Sure. So first I'll start with, if people are unfamiliar with SXM Media, we are the advertising arm that exclusively represents the most dynamic audio, immersive content opportunities across the landscape, whether that be satellite, streaming radio, audio, podcasting, and more. In my role, I feel like the landscape has evolved so much. There's so many different platforms, so many different content types, so many different opportunities to engage within the audio space. My role is to act as a consultant and a strategic advisor really to agencies and brand advertisers on how to really harness the power of all things audio in the ecosystem, ultimately so that they're not only reaching consumers where they're digesting and consuming content that they love, but to do so in a way where their audio strategies make the most impact and ultimately lead to successful business outcomes. So that's a little bit about what I do, and been doing it for 15 years and super excited to continue to see what the future of audio sounds like.
As experts in entertainment, my firm NRG, we've been tracking the future of digital audio for many years. And of course, it's a little surprise that during the pandemic, audio really took off, especially with a Gen Z and millennial audience that was already engaged with it, but really turned to it because they had screen fatigue, and they were turning to it as both a source of entertainment and news. Podcasts in particular really were at the heart of that and have been part of really disrupting media for the last couple years. What are you doing right now in your business to really transform the year ahead when it comes to podcast advertising?
Well, I love that you've seen that, and obviously so have we. We say your eyes can get tired, but your ears are always listening.
Yeah.
And I think the podcast space specifically has been an area that we've been focused on for a few years now, and we're going to continue to double down on in the new year. Specifically, there's just so much more opportunity, even though listening has scaled and it's definitely the fastest growing sector of the digital audio space. We believe that we can make podcasting and the environment better for listeners, creators, and advertisers. And we're really focused on doing that by expanding content, making better content, by elevating and enhancing audience targeting capabilities for our advertisers through looking at creative and understanding how we can make better creative that connects authentically and is culturally relevant and scalable, all while leaning into measurement across the board. Ultimately, marketers, when they invest their dollars, they want to understand the efficacy and the efficiency that, and the value that they're getting out of that investment. And so we'll be closely focused on that.
Speaking of listeners, given this medium's popularity, how has listenership been changing in recent years, and what should marketers know about that change?
It has changed fundamentally, and I'm sure you're not surprised, from its inception. And so when podcasting really started, there was a more mature, more affluent white male listenership, and it has changed markedly over its inception, but especially over the last few years, we're seeing audiences increasingly younger, diverse, and quite frankly, more female-led. And we think that marks all good, check boxes for brands that want to reach their core customers and potential new customers within this space. What's also interesting is, from a brand marketing perspective, brands are trying to find the new places and spaces that they can play in and reach their target audiences. But what we're hearing more and more, especially as you think about the deprecation of cookies and privacy, is where can I find those consumers in contextually rich areas that are relevant for my brand marketing message. And so I'm super excited just because of the fact I feel like podcast is the place to be, and if marketers haven't dipped their toe in, or if they have, they've seen some success, like there's such opportunity to scale.
Last month, SiriusXM released its Women in Podcast report. And it's participating here at CES in the Female Quotient Equity Lounge. What findings or trends should brands be paying attention to as it relates specifically to women in podcasting?
Women in podcasting. Well, first, I love that you know all of that. On a organizational note, we are partnering with the Female Quotient and the Equality Lounge for our Pass the Mic initiative, which fundamentally aims to tap into female leadership and help them pay it forward to the next generation of leaders. And we're partnering with the Female Quotient to ask female leadership across media, marketing, and technology all about their defining moments in their career and what has helped shape them as leaders and what they want to pay forward to help the next generation come up a little bit faster. So that's one way we love supporting diverse voices, but that also manifests itself into really understanding audiences. And you mentioned the Women's Podcast Listener Report that we did in partnership with Edison Research. Really not just being able to reach an audience, but understanding their motivations, their behaviors, and what they're looking for from a publisher or a content source is fundamentally key for us. And from a leadership perspective, there were so many key insights from that report, but one of the most notable is that while female listenership continues to rise and is closing the gap, there is a hunger and a need for more representation, especially from women of color. And so, as we, again, try to look at better content, producing better content, distributing that content, we're just really excited to be part of the process of diversifying content and kind of equaling the leveling the playing field for listeners, because we know how important that is.
Being that we're here at CES this week, we've been hearing a lot about technological innovations all around us. What technology do you think is going to spark the biggest transformation in the audio and in the podcast industry in particular in the coming years?
Well, I would say the next phase of podcasting is already here.
Okay.
And it might not be the sexiest answer, but I would say programmatic. Mm-hmm. I think the podcasting space, traditionally, most brand marketers have dipped their toe in through customized host reads, sponsorships, and there's a great deal of value there and authenticity and ability to reach those communities of listening audiences. But there's been the flip side to that is scale's been really hard. And so the great news is that the podcasting space has exploded, and SXM Media actually reaches 2 out of 3 podcast listeners every month. So marketers can come to us directly, but the future of programmatic allows a marketer to really look at that audience first based buying, target those audiences not only on the top 50 listen shows, but through the long tail of the podcast content ecosystem. Understand where their impressions are delivered, understand transparency of the networks, the shows, the episodes that their marketing dollars are showing up in. But then the promise of programmatic is really to get those signals back on the efficacy of the medium, the response rates, and to be able to look at the performance holistically, not just on an audio-based plan or buy, but against all other media that they're running programmatically. And so that, I think, will help rise all tides, raise all boats. I think that will help really catapult the next level of podcasting in our space.
Well, I wanted to wrap up here with some thoughts around advice you might have for marketers, especially as they work in the audio and podcast space. Anything that comes to mind that you'd want to tell marketers out there that are listening in?
That's a big ask. I would just start maybe more basic and fundamental. When we receive brand briefs, I would say, and I'm going to be generous, 90% of all brand briefs are focused on what the brand looks like, and a very small portion on what the brand sounds like. And so we're here at CES, and yes, there are the big screens and the high defs and the curved screens, and there is a future there for the metaverse and haptic experiences. But the rest of the floor, you really see these innovations that the screen sizes are shrinking, if they're existent at all, and those innovations are being powered by audio, by voice activation. And so brands really need to pay attention to what their brand sounds like, how it shows up in their sonic identities, how it shows up in what is the role of audio in your creative executions. If somebody's going to walk out of a room on your TVC, do they know it's your brand? Or could it be, just swapped with a competitor. And then from a tactical audio perspective is, how are you actually talking to a consumer? How do you want them to receive your message, perceive your message, and ultimately act on that message? So I would just start with the core basics. Audio is a huge space. And I'll leave you with this fact: 30% of all time spent with media is with audio, but audio is only getting 9% of the investment. So when I look at the growth opportunity and the learning opportunity for brand marketers, that's what gets me so excited.
Well, thanks so much for joining me here. This was a wonderful chat, and thank you all for joining Priscilla and I from CES.
Thank you for having me. This is a great conversation. I'm super passionate about all things audio, and I love the opportunity to come tell you my thoughts.
Thank you.